For today's session, we will be discussing more on the RAN Intelligent Controller. If you were able to join the webinar last Saturday, then you have somewhat an idea on what RAN Intelligent Controller is. And there are actually two types, as we have seen in the Kahoot session. There is a near real-time RIC or the non-real-time RIC. Okay, so for today's webinar, for my session, I will be discussing more on the RAN Intelligent Controller. But before that, let's have a review of ORAN architecture so that we can really remember all the details and as well as be familiar with the architecture itself. I hope you can still remember it if you joined last week. Okay, after a brief overview or brief review of the ORAN architecture, we will look into the RIC overview and what we call the functional split. This is how we can, how the operators can separate or assign the different functions to the different components of the RAN. And then later, we'll also have some discussions on the R apps, X apps, which are the microservices that are hosted on the non-real-time RIC and near real-time RIC frameworks respectively. Okay, but right now, these are more on the theoretical side. And as the academy moves along, we'll be able to post as well some actual tools, actual RIC tools that can be used, mostly open source software. Okay, okay, so with that, let's start the discussion of the ORAN architecture, the review of the ORAN architecture. Okay, so remember that the radio access network is the part of this whole telecommunications network that is nearest to the end user or the user equipment, and it provides the mobile network coverage from the to the end user. From our last webinar, we were able to see that in the Philippines, there are a lot of radio access networks. There are thousands of them. Different major telco will have different base stations, and they try to cover a huge portion of the archipelago. Okay. And there are different types of radio access networks depending on the cellular generations as well. Okay, so this access network or the radio access network provides the coverage, as you can see here, and it is connected to the core network through the transport network. Now, so when we say transport network, we also call that as the backhaul, and the core network is mostly that something that provides the services and also has all the major routers and switches there. Okay, so you're already familiar now with how the radio access network works and usually how it looks like. It usually looks like this on the right. And there are different types of radio access networks in the different generations or different cellular generations. So we've gone through 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G in the Philippines. So when these standards were proposed or rather deployed, it's usually within after 1 decade. So the 2G started in 1990, and then 3G in 2000, 4G in 2010, and then 5G in 2020. Okay. So these standards are being maintained or managed by the 3GPP or the third generation partnership project. So if you're quite interested in learning more about the deployment or the phases and the other standards, you can search for the 3GPP website, and then you'll find that they have the white papers there and other important information. So if for 5G, they're still rolling out, the different telcos in the whole world are still rolling out the different phases. And eventually, the goal is to be able to roll out a standalone 5G network, wherein the radio access networks no longer rely on the other 4G core network. Okay, so for 2G, it depends on the economy, the territory. In Philippines, we have the GSM Edge. So GSM is Global System for Mobile Communications, and then Edge is 2.5G. So actually, there are some other generations in between, but they are also just called um, like 2.5G. There are also 2.75G and so on. Okay. And then you may notice in your phones if you don't have connection to 3G, 4G, 5G, sometimes it just reverts back to GSM or sometimes it indicates 2G. Okay, so because in Philippines we still have this because we heavily rely on the SMS, the short messaging service. So we still have this, but in other countries they are slowly trying to decommission this nodes so that they just fully deploy this other generations. Okay, because take note, the RAN in these different generations are different. Like this GERAN for 3G for Universal Mobile Telecommunication System. It's UTRAN or Universal Terrestrial RAN, and then they have their different components: the radio network controller, the Node B. Also for 2G, we have the base station controller and the base transceiver station. Then for 4G, we have long-term evolution. Actually, when they put this out, it was actually 3.9G, but was also marketed as a 4G already. There's actually a LTE Advanced with an A, so you may probably notice this in your phones. And then the RAN for 4G is Evolve UTRAN. And then the name for the node is eNode B. Then currently we have NR or New Radio for 5G. And then this is the G Node B. Okay, so what you can take away from this slide is that the terminology for the access networks varies depending on the considered cellular technology generation. And the RAN itself is a general term, a general name for the access network equipment of the cellular networks. Okay, so moving on, let's also review the evolution of the RAN architecture before. Uh, Previously in the 2G and early deployment of 3G, it's mostly just traditional RAN, wherein the RRU and the BBU are co-located on the same site. And particularly if it's a non-split option, then it is located on the same cabinet or same enclosure. The problem with that is that the cabling system from the remote radio unit to the antenna will be quite long, and if the cable is long, then there will be huge losses before even arriving at the antenna itself. Okay, but they also try to split the two components. The remote radio unit will be nearer the antenna, and then the baseband unit is will be maybe at the bottom or a little bit far from the antenna. And they have an interface between RRU and DBU called the CPRI, or sometimes they call it as CPRI. So this is also one of the interface for front haul connections. Okay, so that's it for the traditional RAN. And then this is also called as the DRAN or distributed RAN. Okay, and then for the centralized RAN, or sometimes also called as the cloud RAN, we have the baseband units. They are pulled together in a centralized location, maybe in the centralized office. And with that, they can control other remote radio units from different sites so that the site will only have the antenna and the remote radio unit. So it's maybe for easier management and also optimization or like more efficiency in terms of managing the different RAN systems. So somehow the components, the baseband unit is somehow on the cloud. No, not really on the cloud, but it is more on a pool somewhere that is nearer the central office. Okay. And then in this case, there are also two options: the no split BBU or the split BBU, wherein we can have the BBU into two, the distributed unit and the centralized unit. So these are components, no, consisting the composed that comprise the BBU. Okay, and the interface connecting these two, I hope you still remember this. The interface connecting these two is what we call the mid-hall interface. Okay, so moving on, we have the virtualized RAN. So in the virtualized RAN, we have the functions of the baseband unit are now virtualized and may be run on commercial off-the-shelf server. And somehow this is also on the cloud, not really a far away cloud, but rather still within the telco premises. Okay, so even though this part, the virtualized RAN or VRAN, is yet not yet Open RAN. Why is it not yet Open RAN? Because the hardware, particularly the interface connecting the different components, are still proprietary. So when you say proprietary, if you buy the device, the hardware connecting the two components, they should still be from the same vendor, which made it, of course, difficult to of course, to expand if the operators want to expand their network coverage. Okay, and then finally, Open RAN. This is where the hardware should be open, which means it can be a commercial off-the-shelf server or a commercial off-the-shelf hardware, and then the baseband unit are virtualized. There are software functions, and then the front hall interface, the one connecting the remote radio unit and the baseband unit, or the DU particularly, is open. And then the different RAN functions are RU, DU, and CU. Okay, and later we'll also emphasize or like discuss more on the 3GPP functional split. Okay, so hopefully with that, you were able to be familiar with the evolution. Okay, and in this slide, we look at how the functions of the different RAN components or different RAN functions can be separated into the RRU and BBU. This is just an example. And we're not going to detail into each protocol, but just to give you an idea that each part has a certain function. And also we can relate this to the OSI model, the Open Systems Interconnection model. And mostly the RAN functions lie on the layer 1 to layer 3 of the OSI model. Okay, so for the physical layer, there are two RAN protocols here. We have the radio frequency, RF, and the PHY layer, or the physical layer. And then for the next, the data link layer, we have the medium access control, or MAC. And then the RLC, radio link control, packet data convergence protocol, PDCP. And then for the network layer, we have the radio resource control, or RC, and the service data adaptation protocol, SDA. Okay, so these are the different RAN protocols and the corresponding OSI model. So later in our discussion on the functional split, we will be able to cover which component of the RAN, the RRU, the DU, the CU, will handle and some of these protocols. Will the RRU just have the radio frequency, or can it also have other functions depending on the use case? And then this is the most important slide from last webinar. So I hope you were able to join, but if not, no, this is the ORAN architecture. Wherein you still have your distributed unit and the radio unit and the centralized unit. So if you just look at those three components, those are the basic RAN components. Even in the non-open RAN scenarios, so they are still there. But when we now consider ORAN architecture, aside in adding the O here to indicate that it is open, there are other important functions like the near real-time RIC and the non-real-time RIC frameworks. So these are the um, intelligent controllers that can help optimize the whole network. You can see that the near real-time RIC is connected to the RAN components uh, here particularly through the E2 interface here. So E2 connects to the CU, either the control plane and the user plane, and then it also connects to the distributed unit. Okay, it also, of course, connects not only to this part, no, but to other nodes. No? Like here, in this case, this is also an open radio access network. It is an eNode B, so that means it can also be on a 4G node. Okay, but of course, this one not just two RAN components. It may be connected to multiple RAN components. So this near real-time RIC will collect some information from the radio access network, perhaps how it is being operated and things like that. And eventually, it can assist in managing it, maybe for radio resource management and things like that. So later, we'll be able to cover this part and have an overview of the near real-time RIC. What you need to understand is for near real-time RIC, it is usually supporting tasks that are less than 1 second of delay or 1 second of latency. Okay, that's why it's near real-time because it's less than 1 second. It's not possible to have 0 second of latency, but somehow it is almost near real-time. Okay, so what else? We can also notice here that the DU and RU should be connected by a front haul interface here. These are the front haul interface, just the CUS plane and the management plane. And then we have the CU and the DU. The mid haul interface connects the two. We call the mid haul interface as F1. You may notice that the colors of the interfaces may vary because some of them are defined by 3GPP. So the 3GPP defined interfaces are the gray ones. So I hope it's noticeable here. So this one is gray and gray. The E1, the X2, NG, and so on are all gray. But those interfaces connecting to the near real-time RIC, the non-real-time RIC, and the SMO are ORAN interfaces. Since we know that the non-real-time RIC and near real-time RIC are ORAN components. So that's already a clue if maybe later in Kahoot now if there are questions on interfaces. Okay. And then what else? We have the non-real-time RIC. In this case, from the name itself, non-real-time. So it's supporting tasks greater than 1 second. So maybe it will require more time to process, more time to train. So that more time to train the maybe AI model and before deploying it in the whole network. Okay, so this non-real-time RIC is connecting to the near real-time RIC via the A1 interface. So this is one of the important interfaces in non-real-time RIC. So since it's their connection is also important because this will assist in preparing the models, maybe the AI models that will be deployed later in the near real-time RIC. Okay, so this non-real-time RIC is usually in this service management and orchestration framework or SMO. So later we'll be able to see the high-level framework of this too. So the SMO also connects to the different RAN components through the O1 interface, like this. And last time we mentioned that Sandesh mentioned that there was no connection yet from the SMO to the RU, but eventually this is for future study in this case. That's why it's a dashed line. Okay, and also we have the O2 interface here. connecting to the O cloud to be able to support some cloud infrastructure management and operations. Okay, so I hope this architecture has been already familiar with you, so that because we'll be discussing more on the near real-time RIC and non-real-time RIC in the bit. Okay, so this is also the ORAN Alliance reference architecture. And in this case, it's more on another way of looking at the architecture itself. So again, we have the DU, RU connected by the front hall interface, and then the DU and the CU connected by the mid hall interface, F1. And then the near real-time RIC connect to the RAN components via the E2 interface, right? And the non-real-time RIC connects to the near real-time RIC via the A1 interface. Okay. So in this case, you notice that this CU is a multi-RAT or multi-radio access technology. So that means it may be able to handle different cellular technologies, and it can be also deployed as a virtualized network function running on the commercial off-the-shelf servers. Sorry. Okay, so looking more into this architecture, there are a lot more details there. Like for example, in the orchestration, the SMO, the service management and orchestration, we have the different parts or different policies, configurations, inventory, and so on, mostly to oversee the whole RAN network of the operator. And then for the near real-time RIC, there are some there may be some third-party applications and some for management of the radio connections, for mobility management, quality of service, interference, and maybe they have, if they incorporate AI to monitor the whole system, they can also include that as well. And then E2 is it has the two parts, the control plane and the user plane. And then there are also network function virtualization. That's why the virtualization webinar was part of the foundational series. I hope you were able to join as well. And then finally, of course, the ODU and ORU. Notice there are different names of the RAN functions. So these are some possible ways to split the functions that I have mentioned earlier in the table of the RAN protocols and OSI. Okay. So let's just have a quick activity. Maybe just maybe I think you can still type now in the chat box. So maybe you can just send your answers to the host and panel. No, they may not be able to see it, and the other participants may not be able to see it, but try to answer maybe the first part. No? Identify the missing component. No? So this is the ORAN architecture, and then let's try to identify the component number 1. What is this component number 1 that is located in the SMO framework? And so please type your answer in the chat box. Although I think you can only type for the host and panelist. But that's okay, so that you can try to. Yes, a lot of you have already answered, and majority are correct. But it's the non-real-time RIC. So the non-real-time RIC is placed here. Okay. Next question. Now, next component. This number 2 here, the yellow one, the one connecting to the non-real-time RIC and to the RAN components via the E2 interfaces. Okay. So many of you already answered, and since the top one, the top component is non-real-time RIC, therefore the other one is more likely near real-time RIC. But always remember they are connected by the A1 interface. Okay, third component. No, please type your answer. What is the third component here? The orange one. Although logically you can like interchange this to the 3 and 4. Okay, so the three is the Open CU or OCU CP, or maybe also UP, because logically you can interchange them now. Okay, type now your answer to number 4. Oh, I already mentioned it. Oh, I forgot there are answers here. So for 3 and 4, we have the OCU and CP, as well as the OCU UP. Okay, and they connect to the near real time with using the E2 interface. And then there's another interface here, the E1 interface, connecting the two planes. And then connecting the CU to the other component, number 5, is the mid-hole interface. Okay, so please type now your answer for component number 5. Yes. Okay, so the answer is ODU, or the distributed unit, open distributed unit. And then finally, the last question, number 6. What is this component here that is connected to the DU via the open front hall interface? Okay, so the diagram is a bit, it should be connected like here. Okay, so the answer is ORU, open radio unit. Okay, so I think many of you are now already familiar with ORAN architecture, and these are the important components. And also, it's important to know the different interfaces here. And usually, those interfaces connecting to the RICs are the ORAN defined interfaces. The others are 3GPP defined interfaces. 3GPP also has a front hall interface, but the originally defined is not open. So that's why the front hall interface here is ORAN defined. It's color green in this case. Okay, now let's move on to the important main focus of today's webinar, which is the RAN intelligent controller. And later we'll also look into the functional split, how the different functions, different RAN protocols can be assigned to the 3 important components, the radio unit, distributed unit, and the centralized unit. Okay, but before that, an overview of the working groups. In the ORAN Alliance, they have different groups in charge of looking into the different parts of the ORAN architecture. So, for example, in the working group 1 is more on the overall responsibility for the ORAN architecture and some use cases. And they can identify the tasks that needs to be completed to lead the other working groups, like working group 2 onwards. So working group 2 focuses on the non-real-time RIC and A1 interface. So if you can remember the architecture earlier, the A1 interface connects the non-real-time RIC to the near real-time RIC. And the purpose of the non-real-time RIC is for tasks greater than 1 second, and then for other higher layer procedure optimization or policy optimization, and for providing the trained AI or machine learning models to the near real-time RIC. Then working group 3 is the near real-time RIC and the E2 interfaces. So E2 interface connects to the RAN elements, the CU and the DU, and not only on a single node, but also considering other nodes as well. Okay, so near real-time RIC focuses on the task less than 1 second of latency, and able to control more on fine-grained data collections across the different RAN components. And then working group 4, open front hall interface, connecting the DU and RRU. And if there are multiple vendors, multiple manufacturers of these components, the working group will provide some standardization how to operate them, how to test for interoperability. So as also asked last webinar, they asked what is one of the challenges of deploying ORAN or Open RAN. One of the challenges is for interoperability, to test whether if you have multiple vendor devices, to check if they can actually interoperate, as if there's no difference among the different components from various vendors. So yeah, this is one of the challenge, and that's the trade-off now from being open, from being o- in, open to not proprietary. Okay. And then there are other interfaces here to also ensure fully operable multi-vendor profile. So if you go back to the architecture, you'll notice that the F1 is the middle interface, and the other interfaces now connects to the other nodes to ensure multi-vendor operation. Then the other working groups here, we have the working group 6 for cloudification orchestration, and most of these are not relevant for today's webinar, but we're just going through them. Working group 7, white box hardware, for providing complete open references, for the COTS components. Working group 8, stack reference design. So for developers, so they probably also need to understand this. And then working group 9, open xHaul transport. Working group 10, operations and maintenance, including the O1 interface. If you go back, the O1 interface connects to from the SMO, connects to the RAN components. And then finally, working group 11, security, which will also be covered more on the advanced series, advanced webinar series in the next few weeks. Okay, so the important part, or the important discussion in this webinar is mostly on the RAN intelligent controller, or we can just name them as RIC. So in the earlier generations, there were different controllers. Like for example, for 2G and 3G, the earlier controllers were focused on the RAN orchestration and management. And the name for the controllers in 2G, a controller in 2G is the base station controller, or the BSC. And in 3G, we have the radio network controller, or RNC. By the time that we reached the 4G, there was no separate controller to simplify the architecture and allow response time. But eventually, they also returned it, or rather introduce it again in the 5G Open RAN scenario, wherein the RICs can enable eNode B or GNode B functionalities for network intelligence, resource assurance, and resource control. Okay, so it's important to understand that there are different RAN components and also different RAN controllers in different generations. Since in actual deployment, there are multiple radio access technology being deployed. It's not just one generation at a time. Usually there are more than just one at a time. So they also will be able to interoperate in the architecture, in the ORAN architecture. Okay, and the RAN intelligent controller was introduced because there were some need to ensure that the 5G applications will be able to cover low latency. 5G specifications also require the network functions virtualization and the software-defined networking to enable configuration optimization and the control of the RAN infrastructure at the edge. So since there are some need to control the different components in a centralized manner, they introduced the RIC. So RIC enables the different functionalities for purpose of network intelligence, resource assurance, and resource control. It was originally defined for 5G Open RAN, but eventually they can also incorporate the 4G, like as you have seen in the ORAN architecture. The near real-time RIC also connects to the eNode B. So this RIC, the RIC is essential to support the interoperability of different hardware and software components. And then it can leverage data analytics and AI for better management of the resources and also for optimization. So the purpose of this one is that the system, the telecommunication systems, the RAN components will be able to self-optimize and ultimately for purpose of efficiency. So that's the overview of the RIC. So we already know that there are different types of RICs. No? We learned before that there is the non-real-time RIC and the near real-time RIC. So the non-real-time RIC is located in the SMO, and this one is supports tasks that require greater than 1 second of latency. It also hosts what we call the R apps. When I say R apps, these are just they may be third party applications that add services to the whole network for the purpose of optimization and optimization of the RAN, maybe for configuration management and data analytics, and if there's a need to prepare the AI model, the ML model that would be deployed later in the near real time RIC. And then for the near real-time RIC, it supports tasks that require less than 1 second of latency. And this one hosts what we call the X apps. So take note of the difference. So our apps are on the non-real-time RIC, X apps on the near real-time RIC. And this one mostly the different services so that require near real-time delay or near real-time latency, like radio resource management, or like network slicing and scheduling. Okay, so if we look at this high level, not really high level, but another way of viewing the non-real-time RIC architecture, we focus on the non-real-time RIC, and then it's connected to the A1 it connects to the near real-time RIC using the A1 interface. And the working group 2 is responsible for the non-real-time RIC and the A1 interface. So we have here the A1 interface and also the O1 interface. Both of them are what we call a northbound interface because they're connecting to the SMO. So it's northbound. Okay, this is just one way again of looking at it. No? And later we'll be able to also see how what is the high level non-real-time RIC architecture, particularly what are the components inside here, because this is mostly just blocks right now, but what are the contents or the components within this different blocks. And then for the high level ORAN near real-time RIC architecture, if you look at the yellow portion, this near real-time RIC is defined in the working group 3, as well as the E2 interface. Since the E2 interface is connecting downwards, and that's why it's called the southbound interface. So there will be E2 terminations at the near real-time RIC, and then connecting to the E2 nodes. And then we have the X apps somewhere here. So a bit later we'll be able to see the high-level architecture concerning the components as well. Okay, so let's now look into the different functions. Earlier, we mentioned this part in this table. There are different RAN protocols, and then they can be mapped on the OSI model like this in this case. And each RAN protocol have different functions. So these are just some generalized functions. In the radio frequency, we have the analog to digital conversion, digital to analog conversion. The phi layer is modulation, demodulation, the error correction, the map for multiplexing, RLC for segmentation and error correction as well. PDCP for IP header compression, RRC for connection management and mobility functions, and SDAP for the QoS flow handling. Okay, so in a bit later, we'll be able to see which of these RAN protocols will be assigned to the RAN components. Will the RRU be assigned only RF, or it can also cover the PHY layer? And about the BBU, will it all have the upper protocols, or can we split again the BBU to so that the CU will handle a certain portion, or the DU will handle some other functions? Okay, so why is there a need to do that? It's because depending on the use case, maybe the mobile operator can only deploy certain functions on that hardware. Then they can put in another hardware somewhere else to optimize their operation. Okay, so in previously the BBU is just one block, and then later with the introduction of the technical report 38.801 by 3GPP, this BBU has been split into separated into two components called the DU and the CU. Okay, so the split of the BBU into these two components are defined in the technical report 38.801. And then we now have the mid-hole interface connecting the two. And then this one can be the F1 interface. Okay, so a specific CU and BU functions may vary depending on what we call the functional split that will be implemented. Okay. So this one also defines the what we call the functional split. Okay, so what is functional split now? Specifically in 5G, different protocol layers will reside in different components. The protocol layers earlier that we have seen in the table, and then the purpose of having different protocols and different components is so that there will be different flexibility and depending on the specific deployment constraints. And by standardizing these splits, we'll be able to enable the use of solutions from different vendors. Imagine if different vendors just follow their own style on to how to implement the split, then it may be difficult to test for interoperability. So that's why they define the different possible functional splits so that other vendors, the manufacturers and operators are on the same page in that case. Okay. So these are the three key factors that influence the split choice: a certain quality of service, the user density, and also the transport networks. Okay. So the functional split would help the mobile network operators to choose depending on their needs. Okay, so I believe this was also discussed in the last webinar, but if you were not able to attend, try to answer in the chat box. Please type in the chat box what are these components. So let's start on the monolithic RAN in this part. So before the functional split, what is the first component here, the number one? You can type your answers on the chat box. What is this component number one? Take note, this is the monolithic RAN, so there is no split yet. Okay, so many has already answered. The answer is baseband unit or BBU. So the functions here are not yet split. That's why it's just one big block. And then at the bottom, please type your answer. What is the component number two? It's the same component on the when the split happens because the split focuses more on the BPU. Okay, so the answer is RU or RRU. The remote radio unit or radio unit, or sometimes also called as RRH, remote radio head. Okay, next component number three. What is component number three? Okay, there are varying answers, but the answer is DU. So the distributed unit. So that means what is the final component number four? Because there are just three LAN components, so you can probably guess what is the final component. Okay, so it's the CU. So remember C, U, D, U, R, U. If you want me to remember, they're in alphabetical order. C, D, and then R. Okay, so C, U, D, U, and R, U. Okay, so the split into CU and DU was defined by the 3GPP technical report 38.801 earlier. Okay, so the RAN functional split divides the monolithic RAN into three parts. We have the RU, the DU, and the CU. And then there will be different types of splits now into where we can separate the RAN functionalities. So we have the low layer split, LLS, and the high layer split, HLS, and the dual split, a combination of the low layer split and the high layer split in this case. So this different split variants would allow flexibility and the virtualization flexibility as well for the mobile network operators. Okay, so a bit for the low layer split, it's focused on the split between the RU. This it's because low layer, so it's the lower part. Low layer is RU and the CUDU. High layer split is more on the CU and then the DURU. And then for dual split, of course, combination of the two. So here at the top and at the bottom. Okay, so now let's look at the high layer split first. So when I say high layer split, there will be two blocks. The first block is the CU only, and the other block is the integrated DU and RU. Since the split is only at the top part, so in the three components, you're just splitting between the CU and the DU RU. Okay, so there are two ways to functional split options here. We have option one, wherein the CU is in charge of RRC and SDAP, while the option two, the CU is also in charge until the PBCP. And then the integrated DU and RRU will be in charge of the RF until the PBCP for option one, and then for option two, just until RLC. Okay. So this one is good for use cases with dense urban areas. They have also large dependence on the front haul performance. Okay, so also remember F1, the mid-haul interface is the one connecting the CU and the DU. Sometimes when we integrate this RRU, and DU, they can be referred to as RDU, so remote and distributed unit. So the combination of the two. So that means they will be co-located on the same site, and there is also most of the functions now are on the same hardware. Okay, and then we have the low layer split. In this case, when I say low layer split, they're trying to separate the RU from the integrated CU and DU. So the split, there may be three different splits or three general splits for LLS. You have the option 6, 7, and 8. So for option 8, we have the RU only managing the RF component, and then the CU and DU will handle all the other components. I remember that the physical layer is just originally it's just a PHY layer, but there are various processes inside it. That's why we can further split this part, the PHY layer, into low and then the high. So in option 7, the low PHY functions are assigned also to RU, and then the high PHY until the SDAP is assigned to the CUD. And then the option 6 is from the RF until the high PHY, and then all the others will be handled by the CU and DU. So notice that if you compare this from the previous slide, this is option 1, and then option 2, and so on, option 6, 7, 8. So it's just separating the different components from different functions. Then, of course, the combination of the two, you have the dual layer split, then you combine the HLS and the LLS. There are actually other options defined, and then they can show it, show more the detail, but we're not able to cover it in this webinar. Okay, let's look at the specific options here. Option 6 is it uses the NFAPI frontal interface defined by the small cell forum. This one will can allow the CUDU to connect to any RU. So the S here just indicate it's the small cells. So the small cells maybe they can be the femtocell, the picocell, the microcell, usually for in-building and outdoor wireless service extensions. So the FAPI is the functional application platform interface. This is also the one of the front hall interfaces. It is an API for hardware components implementing the PHY functions. And then the option 7, what is the difference from option 6 to 7? How the PHY layer is split. So the low physical layer and RF is included in the RU. And then this is a good option for distributed RAN deployment, including massive fibers. In this case, the front hall interface connecting the two blocks would be the EC3 front hall interface. This one is defined by ORAN. Okay, and then particularly in option 7, there are further splits, sub-splits. We have the 7.1, 7.2x, 7.2, 7.3. Because there are further processes within each layer. Like for example, in the PHY layer, this is the whole physical layer. There are different parts, as you can see here, no different processes, and they can further split it according to the processes. So the low physical layer is this part from, or the high physical layer is from this part, and then the low physical layer here, and maybe I can go to this website, the cuboptics.com functional split. They have more details on this part, and then I think they also have the whole functional split option here. Okay, so for this different split options, they are defined by various organizations, like the 3GPP and then the ORAN interface. They define this again so that the interfaces, the manufacturing people and the devices should be able to interoperate, and that's the reason for the standardization. Okay, so I forgot to press that. So the split 7.3 is until this part, no? So that means the block here should be the RU, and then at the top is the CUDU, and then the split 7.2 separates the RU to the CUDU, and then the 7.2x, 7.1. Okay, and then finally the option 8, this one is it uses C3 front hall interface that was originally vendor specific. So front hall interface connects the RU to the CUDU, and the RU is just focused on the radio frequency component. This was mostly on 2G, 3G, especially when the traffic and processing rates are lower. And then this one allows centralized traffic aggregation from various RUs so that you can pool the different baseband resources. Originally, it was C3, which is vendor specific, but now it utilizes EC3, defined by the 3GPP, instead to allow interoperability. Okay, so you can see here the summary of the functional split options, and then, sorry, the EC3 is ORAN pala. And in these different options, usually the separation between the RAN functions are maybe separated further into each layer. Like for example here, the RLC may be further split into high and low, also for the medium access control as well, and so on. But most of the split variants that are preferred are the options 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, and particularly the split option 7.2x as well. Okay, so you can also notice that in each of the functional split, there may be different interfaces. Like for example, in option 1, no, since you're trying to option 1 and 2, you're splitting the CU and the DU, then of course there should be um, the interface, the mid-haul interface, the F1 interface in this case. This is the interface between CU and DU defined by 3GPP. And then we have the option 6, 7, 8. These are the different front haul interfaces. The option 6 may be from the SCF or small cell phone. Option 7 is EC3. Option 8 may be the EC3 or the C3. The difference is just that the C3 is vendor specific. They had their own the vendors had their own different implementation of the CPRI, which made it difficult to purchase different devices since they don't follow the same standard. The same way with our devices, that they have different ports. No? That's also the case for the in the past for the connection between the RU and DU. Okay, but that was before the ORAN specifications. Okay, so the operators and the vendors can select a split variant according to their design and operational needs. Okay, and then this is just another way of looking at the different functional split options for 5G. And take note of the different functions may be virtualized. Maybe the RU functions, the DU functions are virtualized, the CU functions are virtualized. And then they can assign the functions to different COTS devices. And if later they want to use a different functional split, then they can also do that. They can just easily deploy a different split scenario depending on their use case, which makes it easier instead of having a fixed split option by the hardware. This one, because of the virtualization, the functions, these different functions can be virtualized. Then they have more freedom to deploy how they want to deploy their network. Okay, so these are just sample deployment scenarios for the first one here. We have independent RU, DU, and CU locations, which means they are separated from each other. This is like having dual layer split. We have the F1 layer here, the mid-haul interface, and then the front haul interface here. So this one is for use cases wherein you have long, like the interface is quite long. No? Maybe the DU is kilometers away from the radio units, and the DU may be farther away as well from the centralized units. And then for use cases wherein you pull together the CU and DU, then that means the CU and DU are co-located in the same area or same location. On the front haul, the mid-haul interface may not be existing in this case, so maybe they're on the same device. While the RU is also, of course, far away from the CUD. And then another way of deploying it is that you have the CU and then the RDU or the RU plus DU. We have the mid-haul interface here. And then in this case, the front haul interface may still exist, but just maybe tens of meters, not too long. Maybe in the same building or on the rooftop, and then just very small difference or very small connection between the DU and RU. And then especially for small cell setup, you may have RU, DU, and CU integrated on the same part or same component, same device. This is quite good for the small cell devices. The mid-haul and then the front haul interface are not apparent in this case. Only the backhaul interface from the CU to the core network will be relevant in this case. So this is also how the small cell forum view the functional splits. We have here the we have here the one product solution, which means the integrated RU, CU, DU, and then the disaggregated solutions, which is the product solution, two product solution or three product solution. For two product solution, you have the option 2, 6, 7, and 8. No? It's a two product solution because you have two blocks. No? And then for three product solution, you have the dual split options in this case. Okay, and then this is just another way of looking at the different splits. So in the interest of time, I'll move forward to the R apps and X apps. Okay, so why did we need to understand the functional split? It's because it will also help understand how the different RAN intelligent controllers will manage the network, and so that they know where the CUDU are, and then what they are functioning. They can also better understand the whole network. Okay, so earlier we mentioned the R apps and X apps. So these different services will facilitate the different management of the RAN components. So R apps and X apps. R apps are on the non-real-time RIC applications, and they require tasks greater than 1 second of latency. This is independent of the non-real-time RIC. It's later we'll see the high-level architecture. These are value-added microservices to support and facilitate RAN optimization and operation. Like for example, ito, policy guidance, enrichment information, configuration management, and data analytics. So example, in this case, maybe for traffic forecasting or AI, ML modeling. So this is also important to really optimize the whole network. Maybe you can identify which RAN will eventually be highly utilized in the long run. If you know which RAN components are going to be highly utilized, the operator may decide to enhance those parts, enhance those locations to ensure that the users will not experience a lot of poor quality connections. And then X apps are applications on the near real-time RIC that requires less than 1 second latency. And they are microservices that can be used to perform radio resource management. And then through standardized interface and service models. Some examples are network slicing and scheduling. Since these are virtualized, they may be provided by some third party, and even they may also provide some proprietary R apps and X apps. So some, if you search online on the different X apps, R apps, you notice that different vendors offer their own types of services. This is now part of the competition of the different vendors who can create a good R app, who can create a good X app, and then since it can be proprietary, then they don't need to really share the details of it now. Okay. But there are also open source R apps and open source X apps for easy deployment as well. Okay, so these are just some example of R apps from this website. So this one is a signal predictor, RF signal predictor. It tracks the O1 measurements. Remember, the O1 measurement is the SMO, the interface from the SMO to the different RAN components. And then it can it can use the signal from from the signal experienced by the UE, and then eventually predict the location of the UE or predict the RF signal at the location for the neighbor and so on. Then there's the cell utilization predictor. It consumes cell utilization measurements like capacity utilization of the cell site, and maybe for prediction of the cell site utilization. And then our app here is UE quality of experience predictor. It's more on when you say quality of experience is how in the perspective of the user and how good how delightful and how annoying the service is. No, not really the quality of service, no, but usually the quality of experience. So measurements of the UERF signal and then measurement of the cell site, and then it can calculate the experience. Yeah. There are also other R apps, no, from different vendors. Like for Ericsson, no, they have like network um, optimization, network healing, automation, and so on. Okay, for X apps, no, we have these use cases for X apps, automated AI ML based network, use case for specific RAN customization, like there's if there are specific adaptation, and innovation in the RAN, like introduction of service awareness. So there are also some X apps from AT&T and Nokia. They have this measurement campaign, automated neighbor relation, admission control, X apps for live data network collection, for testing the RAN control, and parallel wireless apps also. Parallel wireless X apps are um, also propose, you know, the virtualized functions of the other generations. Like for example, 2G base station controller, 3G radio network controller, and 4G X2 gateway. So the X apps, no, are not just specific for 5G Open RAN, but can also be used for earlier generation use cases. Okay, and then let's move on to the non-real-time RIC, the high-level architecture. Let me just flash it directly on the high-level architecture. So this is another way of looking at the ORAN non-real-time RIC architecture. But before I show the different components, let's revisit. And then we have the near real-time RIC here, connected to the non-real-time RIC via the A1 interface. And then the O2 connects to the OCloud. O1 connects to the RAN components, E2 nodes, and also the near real-time RIC. Okay, so this is the SMO framework here, and then the different terminations, and the non-real-time RIC in this case. So the non-real-time RIC framework contains the different functions, like the policy, the ML functions, and other functions here. And then the R apps that will be in this part, connecting to the non-real-time RIC. And then there will be an R1 here, interface, usually open APIs for our apps. The R apps may be different depending on what the operator wants to use. Like earlier, there is the traffic forecasting or maybe generation of AI model or ML model. And then if there's a need to connect to external services, they can also do that through this SMO internal interface. And sorry, external interface here, and then this one is the SMO internal interface. So notice there is now AI and ML model here. So the machine learning skills is also relevant even in the telecom. Okay, so now let's see the near real-time architecture. So we know that this one, this is the SMO, the non-real-time RIC connecting to the near real-time RIC, the yellow one. And then there are X apps here. No? Notice again, it's the X app 1, 2, 3, and so on, because it's not defined which X app the operator will use. It depends on what they want to use. If they want to use the more on the network slicing or maybe other scheduling, handover, and things like that, they can deploy their own X app in this case. And then there are other components as well for the management of the radio interface. And then since near real-time RIC connects to different nodes, it's possible that the design of the near real-time RIC is centralized in the case that it can serve 4G and 5G simultaneously, like the near real-time RIC in this case now can just serve 5G only, or it can serve both 4G and 5G. How do we know that it's also 4G? Because there's E node B here, no? Or maybe it can also just serve just a 4G node, like E node B. Or it can be distributed in nature, wherein we have one physical near real-time RIC consisting of more than one logical near real-time RIC. So maybe just one physical device having multiple near real-time RICs that may be managing different components of your network. Okay, so that's it for my talk today. So just to summarize, so we have learned more about RIC, not only RIC, but also the functional split, which is also important in understanding how the Open RAN network is separated or is deployed, or possible use cases. And the RIC, both the non-real-time RIC and the near real-time RIC, is focused on the management of the radio resources and radio networks, and so that we can have a more efficient RAN components, because a lot of the telco side is also majority of the components are RAN, and the purpose of the RIC is to enable different functionalities for intelligence, resource assurance, and resource control. We learned that the functional split can define how the RAN functions are assigned to the different components. And then the operators, vendors, maybe also developers of the functions can select what split variant they want to do and they want to design depending on the operational needs. This split is defined as a separate standard so that to ensure interoperability between the components. If if vendors have their own design, then the challenge is how to ensure that buying from different vendors will be able to interoperate. Okay, so that's why it is defined by 3GPP in this case. Okay. And then we skip this part, but to summarize, our apps are microservices that facilitate RAN optimization and operations like configuration management and data analytics. The X apps are microservices that can be used to perform radio resource management. You can search more online and type our apps and notice the different vendors and also X apps have different, they may have different applications in this case. Since this can be third-party solutions and can be proprietary solutions as well.